What up, everyone, and welcome to the See-Through Podcast, a podcast that creates transparency on disabilities and the champions with them. My name is Lance, and I am the host / human being behind this podcast, and I live, create, and podcast with Retinitis Pigmentosa from Brooklyn, New York. Speaking of Retinitis Pigmentosa, or RP for short, and by the way, I know you could play a drinking game based on how many times I say RP, so sorry, not sorry for that. But one of today's guests has RP, and yes, you heard right. Today I'm breaking my typical format by having two guests on simultaneously, which makes this episode super special. And today's guests make up the musical duo, the Ghost of Liberty. And this same musical group, which consists of Tyler and Emma Millard, also happen to be a married couple. Diagnosed with RP at 21, musician Tyler Millard met his wife Emma back in 2014 to simply co-write music together. And while their working relationship evolved into a marriage, music has never left the equation. And in this episode, we dive into both the sighted and visually impaired perspective of partnership, and in this case, how that carries over into their songwriting and creative projects. But before we dive into that conversation, make sure you follow or subscribe to the See-Through Podcast on whichever platform you listen to podcasts on. Also, to make sure to follow us on social media, the handle is @SeeThroughPod, and that works for Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you need a convenient place to find everything related to this podcast, just visit seethroughpod.com. Now it's time to get real. But before you hear my conversation with Tyler and Emma, I want to hype them up a bit more. To do that, I thought it would be a solid idea to play a bit from one of their Ghost of Liberty songs. Here's Sundown to Sunrise, which you can find on Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere you stream music.
Sometimes winning's losing fast and moving past who is right and who is wrong. And sometimes leaving's all I've got, even when I know it's not. 'Cause our love is too strong for that kind of talk to be more than a thought. I'll be jealous just to see you fill another's lonely night. So I'm sending you a message through a broken satellite. I love you, I love you, I love you. Sundown to sunrise. Sundown to sunrise.
About to press record now.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it is.
So we should stop cursing now?
You're going to hear our dogs snoring too, probably.
Yeah. They had a big time in the yard.
You might hear my dog too.
Awesome.
Thanks again for doing this. I know you're busy people, and
No problem.
Yeah. This sort of stuff's
Thanks for
fun.
having us. Yeah.
how about we start, if that sounds good to you?
Sure.
Emma and Tyler,
That's us.
you're my first guest to come on where it's not just one person, two people at the same time. Interested to see how this plays out technically. But you guys have some nice mics over there. It looks like you guys have a really cool setup. That probably has a lot to do with you both being musicians.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much have to have all the gear these days.
Definitely. So I know quite a bit about you just from doing a little bit of research and some word of mouth from my friend Austin. But let's just start off with the basic intros. If you could, let the listeners know who you are and what you're about.
Okay. Em, would you like to?
I'm Emma Millard.
And I'm Tyler Millard. We're not brother and sister.
Our dog just chose now to scratch his collar. Yeah, we're full-time musicians and have been for a lot of years. we met probably 7 years ago.
2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like probably right around this time of year, 2014. Yeah, my brother had been saying that we needed to meet up and write together or whatever.
Yeah, so we did. We became friends. I was opening for his band and stuff like that. We were both gigging full time. And then, one thing led to another, and now we're married.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I had a lot of questions. I was curious about how you met, and you kind of just answered that.
That was like the quick summary.
Yeah, there are more details if you want to get into those.
So 7 years. How long have you been married?
2.5.
2.5, yeah.
2.5.
It'll be 3 in September.
Yeah.
And it started out as meeting to play music together.
Yeah, basically.
Tyler creeped on my Facebook and he slid into my DMs.
Was it on Facebook? I
yeah,
can't
he
even
Facebook
remember.
messaged me. It wasn't creepy at all. Actually, his little brother had already said, hey, my brother's doing music and has like a little recording set up at home. I've seen that you're doing music now too. You guys should get together. And then at the time I was living in Raleigh, but then I moved back to Greensboro and Tyler reached out and I was like, okay, yeah. I was like in that open to anything, collaborate with anyone kind of phase, which is a good thing to be. Not a phase, I guess. I'm trying to be like that with everything.
I'm still in that phase.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I went over and to his house and met him, and we kind of just like jammed a little bit and hit it off.
Yeah, she couldn't keep her hands off me.
Oh my God. It's so not
That's
true.
Funny.
No, for somebody that doesn't know us, that sounds so bad. That's so not true.
No, so we went on one date. So we met in the spring. We went on one date that summer,
Yeah.
and then 6 months later, we went on our second date. And I'll tell you, that was not my decision.
I needed time for myself.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm learning quite a bit here, very fast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is fun. So
Okay.
you met to play music. Guys obviously got along.
Yeah.
Similar styles of songwriting, would you say?
I don't think so. We're very different when it comes to our like creative approach.
And taste.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it ended up working out really well when we did do stuff together. But separately, we lean towards different things, but then together, it's like this whole new, amalgamation of both of our.
Well, so the thing that we have in common is that we're both very critical. So that that's good when
Yeah.
it comes, I think why a lot of people don't make it in a particular profession is that they're not as critical enough as they need to be of their own stuff, or they don't have somebody else that's
Chiming in.
critical of their own stuff.
Yeah, that's very fair.
We both now are very honest with each other and hold each other to high standards,
Yeah, that's true.
even if the genre isn't always the same that we're writing in. So
Yeah.
It sounds like you can at least agree that you were each other's taste as people when you first met, and
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
that you like that, right? How I moved into that taste line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job.
But
It's a smooth transition.
and for those out there listening, your group, it's called the Ghosts of Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's us.
Very cool
Not to
sound.
be confused with the t-shirt company that also exists.
Is
called
it?
Ghosts of Liberty. Yeah, I don't know. It's obscure.
You can't come up with a name these days and not have somebody else have come up with it. There's too many people in the world now.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
we did our best to come up with something original.
Nice. Was it called that when you first met?
No. We formed the Ghosts of Liberty like 2 years ago, but when we used to play I guess when we used to play duo stuff or go have a gig and we play together, we called ourselves Em and Ty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we actually have one song released under that name that was our wedding song. We can get to that later. But,
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. So you guys met up, were jamming out together, wrote some songs together, met in the spring, went on a date in the summertime, and then you said there was a hiatus in between that first date and that second date.
Yeah. We call that the big freeze.
No.
It was
Tyler says he plays well from the friend zone.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
okay, let me tell you what I did.
okay.
So I was kind of setting up this gig at a local Mexican place. We were playing on Taco Tuesday there.
Nice.
And I was like, Em, come do this with me. I need you out there with me. So I basically set up a reason that we had to see each other every week.
Yeah. Smart.
It was a long con.
A lot of love stories start off with something extremely creepy, I think. That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, because little did I know that was his ploy the whole time.
Yeah.
I just thought I was going to have a good time.
No, we're splitting like 100.
Drink some margs, chips.
Splitting like $100. The last thing is I need is like another person to have to split it with. But I was investing in my future.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we started dating like New Year or I guess December 31st because it was New Year's Eve that year. So
Good to know.
played the long con.
Backstories are always fascinating to me. And Tyler, your backstory fascinates me for a lot of reasons because we both share the same eye disease, retinitis pigmentosa, right?
Well, so I don't even know anymore what retinitis pigmentosa is. Because people have talked to me before and referred to it as like a disease, and then other people have talked to me and kind of talked about it more as like a symptom. So I'll tell you, we've been going through genetic testing. And that's like me, Emma, my parents, and we're talking about whether or not we're going to do it with my brothers and sisters. Because all of us are at the age where either in the next year, in the next few years, everybody's going to start thinking about having babies. So going through the genetic testing thing, it looks like I have the Usher syndrome gene. There's something wrong with that one. So what does that mean? Well, it means my vision pretty much looks like RP. Whereas I had night blindness and color blindness, and I lost my peripheral vision. That was like the biggest thing. But it seems to be a bit more aggressive than most other people have it. But I don't have any hearing loss, which is the other thing that goes along with Usher's.
Yeah, my last guest past Sunday, she had Usher syndrome.
Did she have the hearing loss as well?
She started with the hearing loss first, and then the vision loss came second.
Okay.
So yeah, it is. You're right. It affects everyone differently, and I've had several different guests on who have RP. I think just because.
How is it for you?
For me, I have a lot of my central vision left intact. My peripheral has diminished enough to where I decided to quit driving. And I'm very slow moving, but I don't use a cane quite yet. I probably should though, and I've been talking about that with a lot of my other guests. And I think this year and coming up, I'm going to start getting trained in that whole
if only to keep other people away from you.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of reasons, pros and cons.
Right.
Mainly pros, right? Yeah. So that's interesting. You did genetic testing, came back with Usher syndrome. When did you find that out?
A couple of years ago now is when I initially did it, but then we just kind of revisited everything because it was nothing was or is certain. It's like the problems with, what are they, variations, maybe the variations on my Usher's gene.
Yeah.
They're not clearly disease causing. They're they're in like the likely category or the maybe category. And the research is so new that me having it could bump the particular variation that I have into a higher category. So now it could be like, this thing likely causes Usher's. But before
retinitis pigmentosa,
but before I did it, it wasn't. So it's just pretty crazy. But I mean, this is like the last 4 or 5 months that we've dived into this, I think.
Yeah, because they finally were able to get a hold of his mom and dad's genes separately and found that, one of the changes came from her, one came from him, so therefore it's recessive and
Likely, yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So your parents, none of them have retinitis pigmentosa or Usher syndrome.
No one has any symptoms. The only thing I ever, when I have doctor's appointments or genetic counseling appointments or whatever, the only thing I ever say is, I know my mom's father had color blindness pretty badly, and he actually died. He was like cutting down trees, and one of them hit him in the head, which I know is like gruesome and terrible, but it was a long time ago. But it just made me think, like, I don't know, I suppose like I would be scared if I were out there and had to cut down trees and was worried about other branches breaking off and hitting me or something like that, you know?
Definitely.
So who knows?
Yeah, you're right. That is interesting because I just went through something similar. I did genetic testing around 3 years ago. And so my mom has RP and so does my sister. So, you know, we inherited it from my mother. And I was the first to have genetic testing, and my results came back and they were basically inconclusive. Like they couldn't pinpoint it.
Wow.
You know, there's multiple genes. Like, you know how they try to identify your specific version of RP.
Yeah.
Right.
They couldn't pinpoint it because there was multiple ones. So then my sister and my mom both took the test, and then they also had multiple variations, but there was only one gene that was kind of the same across the board. So therefore they were able to determine that was our specific one because we all shared that one. And and it's genetic, and 50% chance to, you know, if I have children, they'll have, you know, RP.
So is it dominant then?
It's dominant, yes.
Yeah.
And my brother, I also have an older brother, and he is the only one who didn't inherit it because, you know, it's like a 50-50 shot.
Right. Is your sister's vision about like where yours is now too?
Yeah, I actually think mine is a little worse than hers, even though she's older than me. So it's we're not too different of a ballpark, you know.
It's weird how it does affect everybody like so differently.
She's like around 35 and she's still driving. So
wow, yeah.
And I quit driving when I was 27, and I'm 30 now.
Yeah, I stopped.
Okay.
I stopped when I was diagnosed, which is when I was 21. It was just, I got into not a serious accident. I hit like a police officer.
You sideswiped her or something.
Yeah, I was changing lanes. I like checked my blind spot, and then I started to, you know, pull over into the left lane, and whoops, I hit somebody. So we just pulled over, and there was like minimal damage to the vehicles, but I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't be driving anymore. And then I got diagnosed, and I don't know, things didn't change that much at that point.
Yeah.
But just over the years, I'm 36 now, so that was kind of a long time ago now, 15 years.
Driving definitely seems like, you know, the big one, you know, like when I talk to people, you know, when did they stop driving? And, you know, because that's such a huge part of, you know,
Absolutely.
American culture for most of the nation. You know, that's partly why I moved to New York, you know, so I can use subway.
Public transit.
Yeah.
You know, the driving one is like a really big one for independence, but you were talking about the cane, and the cane is a huge one for like, I don't know if it's self-esteem or something along those lines, because you just know that everybody's now going to be looking at you, and some people are going to pity you, and, you know, a whole bunch of different emotions that they might have that you don't want them to have about you. So that was a bigger deal for me, honestly, like carrying around a cane.
That's a great point. And I think that's very true. It's like driving is a lot for independence, and then the cane is more for just self-accepting.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
moving forward and kind of deciding. I would say it's identifying as someone who is like visually impaired, and like, publicly, you know, because even me, like admitting it was like a process to like employers and things like that. Yeah, for a long time I didn't tell any of my employers. I worked in video production, funny enough, and And I just felt like I didn't want them to know because I don't want them to think that it would affect my performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I taught at a high school, and when I interviewed, this was like 2008 maybe. And when I interviewed, I didn't tell them, and I was like, okay, I just got to make it in there, do the interview, and get out without like bumping into anything and spilling any drinks or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still able to do it at the time, but it ended up backfiring because I left that job after like 6 months, and it was partially because I was like asking for assistance, and they had no idea that I was going to be asking for assistance, and it was just it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people have stories like this. It's good and bad, because it's good because I feel like, all right, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like relatable.
Yeah.
But it is like a major thing. It's partly why I still work in video production. I just switched to video editing because now, you know, I'm just sitting at a desk and I can, like, since I do have some central vision, I can, you know, make that work. Whereas being on a set and operating cameras and maneuvering around lights and sound equipment got kind of, you know,
dicey,
very problematic. Yeah. But so do you use a cane, Tyler?
I do, but I don't live in a city, so I was cane trained, and it was like I need to be able to walk 8 blocks. So I went to downtown Greensboro and wore a blindfold and did that whole deal. But we live in the suburbs in what's kind of a little, I mean, it used to be a rural town. Now it's a little bit less. It's more just kind of a neighborhood town. But still, I use it to like trace the side of the road or to walk the dogs around in the yard so I don't hit my head on a tree.
Gotcha.
I don't really use it to like walk city blocks the way, you know, it can be really helpful. And
you mentioned you had training. How long was your training?
It was probably like 3 or 4 sessions with somebody from either the county or the state. A really, really nice woman. I can't remember her name. It was so long ago. Maybe Claire. She came out and drove me downtown, and then we walked around, and she would be like a safe distance behind me. And it was pretty crazy, like having to basically cross streets with a blindfold on with other people around with cane. It was like felt very naked all of a sudden.
Yeah.
My
the last guest on my podcast, she mentioned when she started learning to walk with a cane that it surprised her how much it threw her off her game practicing in areas, public places where she normally goes, because it kind of was her realization that people would see her with the cane.
Yeah. It is nice though that it's like you're parting the Red Sea like Moses all of a sudden with the cane, and people really do clear out of the way. So that is one of the helpful things.
Nice. And going to you, Emma, you're probably well versed now, you know, with the visually impaired community.
Yeah.
Through, you know, marrying Tyler. What was your
He's already
first...
smiling. He's already laughing because what we're both thinking is that
Thanks for taking one for the team,
as good as I try to be at leading and guiding Tyler, apparently I'm not that good.
Yeah, that's how I was smiling. I was smiling because thanks for taking one for the team.
Oh, okay.
Marrying a blindie.
Oh, stop. No, it's just that it took me a while to get good at being a guide because my shoulder's lower than his, and you know, our center of gravity is different.
That's good.
Yeah.
But
I just got married myself back in last December.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And I've kind of lost my cool a few times, I'll admit it, with my wife about not being
a good guy,
as aware as I think she should be sometimes when we're going around New York City. 'Cause
yeah,
New
York is hard. We were there like a year or two ago. Yeah.
It can be. It's a very unpredictable landscape with you know, people moving and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten better.
Yeah.
I'm learning to be patient. I think she's learning to be patient.
Yes.
And that's a reason. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you both on. For one, I find, it's just the music is just another added cool layer to it.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had a chance to discuss this on the podcast, and I find the topic of relationships fascinating.
Yeah.
So when you first met Tyler, what was your initial thoughts? Could you tell that there was like a visual impairment there?
Well, that's the funny part, because I met him at his house, and he walked inside and kind of like led me into his. I just followed him into his kind of band room.
My boudoir.
His band room. Oh my God. And I didn't. One of the first things he said was, so my brother, because his brother and I graduated from high school together, and that's again how we met. But he said, I'm assuming my brother already told you that I'm blind, right? And I was like, what? No. Like, his eyes looked perfectly. I mean, you just don't have a concept when you aren't used to the blind community, or the vision impaired community. Like, you don't know what to expect. And I was like, are you serious? And most people, when Tyler tells them, or when I tell them that he's blind, they just they're like, yeah, me too.
I think it's a joke.
I think it's a joke, or like, yeah, my vision sucks too. But it's like, no, he really can't see you right now. But yeah, no, my impression, it didn't change at all. My impression of him, if anything, I think it made me have a lot more respect for him and admiration.
I totally believe that, because you can hide it so well, because it's like a good skill that I think a lot of people in the disability community have. They have adapted their whole lives to it, so that they're able to disguise it, especially on their home turf. And when I'm in my apartment or whatnot, I'm like, as long as you don't put like a shoe in the middle of the floor, or
Yeah, caution sign.
Yeah, it's smooth sailing, or like the classic wet floor sign.
Right.
Oh my God! When I was in college, I would just boot those things. I would never get hurt, but I'd always just send them. Well, first of all, they're labeling the floor as a wet floor, so the floor is wet. So when you kick it over, and then it slides forever because the floor is wet. Oh my God! It's just like, these things are not helpful at all. It doesn't matter what color they are.
No, yeah, exactly. So I think what I want to move on next is to talk about your music group, the Ghosts of Liberty. When it comes to, songwriting, would you say that your relationship as like a romantic couple and as a married couple is helpful to the songwriting process, or do you think it's does it factor in at all, or does it ever slow you down?
I think it's all of the above. I think you have like such boundaries with just, friends or other co-writers that you maybe haven't met yet. And it's like, you keep it really professional and like everybody's in a good mood. But when you're married, it's like anything can happen. Like, it can be really great, or it can be like, a battle of the egos. And then you like have to go be in different rooms for a minute. But no, but in all honesty, we've like learned how to work with each other much better over the years. But it's a growing pains thing. Like, it's worth it, but it's you definitely have to like learn how to check your ego and respect the other person's opinion. Ty?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think we've just had to. We don't do everything 100% together.
Mm-mm.
Because you just couldn't live like that. Or I'm sure there are some couples that play music together and they're just 100% together all the time, but that's just not really us.
It's not very sustainable, because most couples go to work and they don't see each other all day, and they get to be excited when the other one comes home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be hard 24/7 to literally not get a break.
Yeah. So I do my own music stuff, and Emma does her own music stuff, and Emma's in She's just about to finish. What do you have, like two classes left of her
Yeah.
real estate class. So we try to give ourselves the space that we need so that the heart can grow fonder. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So it sounds like you both have like solo projects.
Yeah.
And then the Ghost of Liberty is just one of 3 projects.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing it.
That's right.
And when it comes to you yourselves as individual musicians, I know you both sing, you both play instruments. Tyler, you seem to play guitar, and that seems to be your focus. And Emma, it's piano?
Yeah, I play guitar too a lot when I gig because it's easier to travel with, but I actually enjoy playing keyboard a lot more.
But yeah, other than that, that's about right. We're we're kind of stereotypical when you think about like the dude is playing like blues rock on a guitar and the girl is singing pretty ballads on a piano. That's pretty much us in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I've listened to some music. You both have great voices, and I enjoyed what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
But I wanted to talk about that because I, by no means, have had a successful music career. Music is very hard to do, but it's also simultaneously a field that a lot of people are interested in, and have dipped their toes into,
Right.
Yeah.
Particularly vision impaired, we've noticed.
Oh, that's interesting. What about that? I've never really heard or thought of that.
Well, okay. So first of all, I want to say when I laughed when you said I haven't had a successful music career, I laughed because
What's a successful music career?
None of the people that we know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many of them consider themselves as like successful at this point in time. A lot of us, we have like some sort of a musical thing as our side hustle while we try to get signed, or we try to have a song blow up, and then and then the original music thing becomes our career. But Emma and I go around and play at wineries and breweries and things like that. We have friends who do local production, and then we have friends that just have a completely separate job, just so that they can do the music thing as well. So that, yeah, all that to say, I don't know how many of us are actually successful. There's a very few number that are, I think, or consider it.
It's what like level of income you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah, for sure.
And the pandemic has been really bad for that. So.
Oh, 100%. It's definitely a grind, and I still haven't. I just have fun doing it. So basically, to my extent, is just so you're aware, and we're on the same page of where I'm coming from. I have worked with some producers and recorded some songs, put them up online, wash, rinse, repeat. Get that's just a side note. I don't want to. My main point is I've played a few open mics, in when I was living in Raleigh, because I was living in Raleigh before I moved to New York, and it took like all I had to like force myself to go play open mics, because it was kind of like a nerve-wracking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is the first few times, for sure.
Yeah, and a whole nother element that was added onto it was that these venues and these bars that these open mics happen in, they're all really dark. You got to walk up steps to get up to the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
There's wires on the ground. There's a microphone that you have to find and then maybe even possibly adjust it. You got to find the cable to plug your guitar in, and you want to look smooth while doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to look like,
Yeah.
I getcha.
Has any of those elements of performing and playing, like as someone who's visually impaired, has that been an issue for you at all?
Well, I did some open mics early on, and then my first gig was at this little wine shop, and it was like, it was just like my family and some family friends. And and it was just my own gear. So it was my own mic stand, my own mic, and my own amp, whatever. So that one was very, I didn't have to get up on any sort of a stage, and I knew where everything was plugged in and all that. I mean, and eventually that's what it all becomes, because when you get back to the thing where you're showing up and there's already a microphone and there's already a wire and you have to do that, that's actually kind of like, that's like a nicer venue. For most of the gigs that we play, we have to set up all of our gear every time and provide the PA and all that. So I mean, we've played like opening stuff for, like the biggest acts have been like Vertical Horizon or Edwin McCain and that type of stuff. I know there's like between 1 and 300 people in the crowd, and I have to have my hand on someone's shoulder while I'm walking up there. But they know how to get my hand onto the mic, and then someone hands me a guitar, and we're off and running. So at this point, I don't sweat it that much anymore. But there was definitely a time when that stuff was pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and the thing I noticed too was like keeping the mic like in front of my mouth.
Oh yeah.
Seemed like a struggle. Like I would like have to like find the microphone with my eyes, and then
I find it with my face all the time. When I most times now for a while I sat down while I played, but now I stand, and occasionally I'll be like, uh-oh, I took like 3 steps away and now I have to get back there, and how am I going to do this? Because I got to keep playing.
Yeah.
I have like a kind of a trick where I act like I'm looking down at my guitar, like down, say I'm looking down to the left, and then I'll walk towards the mic stand, and then the microphone will catch me in the shoulder, or like graze along my neck, or I'll hit the stand with my shoulder, and it's like, it's not my face smashing into it. It's like gentle enough, and people are like, oh yeah, he's just looking at his guitar and he's moving around.
Yeah.
Problem solving.
Yeah, I just find that interesting, man. It's like again, like you have a system of, to find the mic, I have to find it with my shoulder. You have to come up with these techniques.
Right.
And I know for a fact that you have way more of those techniques for other daily life things, And I don't know, I kind of love that aspect of, the visually impaired community is like the adaptability, and they're very intuitive and creative, and like you said, it's smooth. And like, for example, Emma, you didn't know when you met Tyler,
Right.
So it can be tricky, because if we want to move into the topic of it being, an invisible, disability, unless you have your cane out and someone knows you personally, they're not going to know that you're visually impaired or blind or anything like that.
It's funny because sometimes people are super quick to pick up on it. Like, we'll walk into a room and he'll have his hand on my shoulder, and we'll meet somebody for the first time, and I'll say, oh, by the way, Tyler's blind. I don't know if you knew that. And some people will say,
I figured.
Yeah, I kind of gathered. And that's kind of interesting to me, because it either says that they've also known another visually impaired person in their life, or they're just, paying attention. But it's a smaller percentage of people that pick up on it than people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. They might likely like know someone, or I don't know. It's hard to tell, right?
Yeah.
The nicest, I know, and the nicest is when one time we were in a restaurant in Nashville, and I mean, this is a problem that has not been solved yet by public facilities, but every time Tyler has to go to the bathroom in a public place, I have to, basically break into the men's bathroom. Like, we could be at a Walmart where there's like 15 stalls, and it's like, all right, I'm going in. I've just gotten to be shameless because you don't have a choice. So I'll lead him in, and then I'll say, okay, follow the wall all the way down to the left or something. But we were at this restaurant one time in Nashville, and I want to say it's like the only time, 1 or 2 times that I've even known Ty that this has happened. But some really kind gentleman was like, oh, can I help you? And like, before I even got to the bathroom, he took Tyler by the his shoulder and led him into the bathroom was really nice.
Unzip my pants for me, everything. No, not really. But yeah, it's occasionally that's happened like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
where it's just like,
it's just so nice
Yeah.
to see people pitching in.
yeah,
That's 100% a very nice thing that man did. But there has to be some days where you don't really want people, helping you, or you don't want to be conversational. Like, for example, sometimes you don't want to explain to them like that you're visually impaired or blind. You just you don't want to like. And then if you go into the specifics, like for example, oh yeah, I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's like no one knows what that is. So like, and then even when you describe it, they still don't know what it is. So
Yeah.
it's like, do you ever have days where you're like kind of not in the mood for help?
oh yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much like, if I had the option, I'm just going to take a bathroom that has no people in it. I don't care how
Yeah.
big the bathroom is or how small it is or how difficult. Like, eventually I'll just figure it out,
Subway.
and I just prefer, yeah. So Subway is my, if you ever go into a Subway, they almost always have a 1-person bathroom.
Which is like perfect for road trips, and we're like, tired and have to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. It's like, let's find a Subway so you could just go in.
yeah, by
It's
myself.
a good hack right there.
And
Yeah.
and airports are pretty good because they have the family bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So we just go in together. But yeah, I mean, most times it's just like, I'll eventually figure it out by myself, and then I don't have to have a conversation. I may have to touch some things that I would prefer that I hadn't touched.
Urinals. and such.
Yeah, but I'm gonna wash my hands at the end anyway. So
And then I'll peek back in there when I know he's probably washing his hands, and help him find the trash can for his his hand towel.
No, that's interesting. I haven't had anyone bring that up about, in terms of, you're the first to talk about bathrooms.
Oh yeah, it's a big part of life.
well,
We were at
it
the
is.
grocery store. We were literally at Walmart the other day grocery shopping. And I was like, oh, do you really want to do this? Like the men's bathroom at Walmart. He was like, no, I can hold it. But it sucks too, because it's like, why should someone have to suffer just because, it's not really working in their favor?
it's just it was busy.
Yeah.
It's just
It's like
too
it's
much.
Walmart. It's a pandemic. Need me say more.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I was going to actually bring that up, but I think everyone knows that the pandemic's probably helped you in that regard. Or at least I hope it has, in terms of being less people around.
Well, that's true. I
Yeah.
thought about it like that.
Yeah, in restaurants for sure.
Yeah.
There are way fewer people
Yeah.
there.
New York was overwhelming for us. I applaud you, because New York was hard.
Yeah, Manhattan in particular. Brooklyn's more spread out. It's 100% like still crazy overpopulated and busy,
Mhm.
but Manhattan's it's like next level,
Yes. Oh,
people,
Broadway.
and especially pre-pandemic, it's
Mhm.
like, but you kind of somehow like get used to it.
Sure.
Takes years though. But yeah, before moving on, I wanted to ask Tyler if you had any tips for musicians. We talked about performing, and that they're like I talked about open mics were a little bit stressful for me. Do you have any tips for musicians who might be disabled or visually impaired?
Well, the general tip that I have is just start. And that's like what a lot of people say on a lot of podcasts. If you have a dream, just kind of start and just know that you're gonna screw it up 10 times before you get it right with just about everything. But the more like kind of specific and tangible thing that I can say is, I recently, this is like since October, I started taking these classes through IC Music, and I can get you Byron Harden is the guy who runs that. I can get you his name if you want, or get you his contact information if you want to talk to him too. But it's just a company, and they teach you how they'll take you all the way from you've never used a computer as a blind person, which was basically where I was. I mean, I'd pretty much stopped using my computer around the time I met Emma, so like 7 years ago. They'll take you all the way from there, teach you how to use the VoiceOver if you have a Mac, or JAWS or whatever the other things are if you have a PC, and they'll take you up through. For those that don't know, the softwares are called DAWs. So a lot of people have heard of GarageBand, but then there's the accessible ones are Logic and Pro Tools, Reaper, and there's one more for the PC. I can't think of it. And then I even learned, I took a class on mixing as well, and all the instructors are blind. So essentially, once you know how to play your instrument and you know how to sing or whatever you're going to do, whatever your act is, recording is like not a problem at all. Like I'm probably close to as fast as any other beginner. I mean, I basically don't use the mouse. You have to memorize a bunch of keys, and there are help kind of help modes that you can put your computer in where you can figure out which if there's a keystroke for the action you want it to take. But any of that stuff is doable. So I'm in the next 2 months, I'm going to start recording for the first time in since before I basically gave up my computer. And so it's going to be with nobody else except me and the guys who are in my band, just playing their instruments, but I'll do all the engineering and all the editing and probably all of the mixing too.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And what was the name of that service again?
IC Music is the name of that company. Yeah. And I know, I mean, you can treat it just like a business, but I think you can also sometimes get grants from people to get it to, at a discounted rate or things like that.
It's been like life-changing for Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed in the last however many months that he's been taking these classes. I mean, now he's just up here 24/7, like can't get him off the computer because he's going to town. I mean, now he's producing a podcast and all of his own music, whereas before it was like very, crippling to not be able to use the computer and not be able to produce his own stuff. So it's just been awesome in so many ways.
Yeah.
The other thing I was just going to say about people with any sort of disability getting into the music industry, it's a really like loving and welcoming community of people. Most other musicians or any musicians worth their, salt or whatever are like just good people that will always be open to collaborate and help and give advice. So just don't ever be afraid to reach out to your local music community.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with that. I think it is a very inclusive community, and everyone loves music. And if you don't, then I don't want to know you. And for those out there who, for example, maybe they want to get in touch with either of you, do you have a social media handle or anything you want to shout out that maybe they could contact you?
I think the fastest one is just at the Ghosts of Liberty. And that's on Instagram. That's where we are on Facebook, and our website. And the Ghosts of Liberty at Gmail is our email address. So,
and on Twitter, which is the thing that I get to run. So if you see anything that's a little too racy, that's probably me out there. That's just at Ghost Liberty on Twitter.
All right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, and if you want to learn more about that music service, just click on the show description. I'll have a link there for that. Emma, I wanted to ask you, since I just asked Tyler for some advice, I wanted to ask you if you have any tips for anyone who is married or dating someone who is, visually impaired.
I don't know that anybody's actually ever asked me that. I think the biggest thing is just to have grace with yourself and with your partner. I mean, like you said earlier, it's all about patience and being like, empathetic understanding that if something is really frustrating to you, it's probably like twice as frustrating to your partner because they don't wish to be, disabled or blind or whatever it is. So, and grace for yourself when you make mistakes because you will. I've made plenty. And then being super open to just like talking about everything. Like that's how we connected probably in the beginning. Not even when we were in a relationship, we were just super open and had really great conversations, and communication is so important because he can't see me, he can't see my visual cues, and they say that that's like 90% of communication or something. So you have to be specific with your word choice and just open to communicating all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great advice. And I'm going to flip it on you, Tyler. Someone with a vision disability, do you have any tips for someone who is married to a sighted person?
I mean, the most important thing is to just keep the pathways in the house clear. That's pretty much it. So, and Emma does a really good job of that. Like, we almost never have those sorts of
Keep
things.
the cabinet doors closed and the drawers closed in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because if you're unloading a dishwasher and you don't tell your husband, that it'll get him in the shin pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny how it's like second nature to me. Like guiding Tyler, like I get out of the car and my first reaction is just always walk around to the passenger side and wait till he can put his hand on my shoulder. It's to the point where sometimes when I go out with my friends or family, and Tyler's not with me, like I'll kind of stand in front of them and wait. And then I'm like, you have vision, like
latch on.
Yeah. Or I'll just be like, I'm looking constantly for things like a curb or what way the door's opening. And so if I have like a friend behind me, I have to like stop myself before I'm like, okay, you've got a curb up.
No, I think this world would be a much better place if we all just walked around in a constant conga line.
Calling out curbs to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it seems like you guys have a good sense of humor, and I'm sure that helps you both, maneuver between each other.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, speaking of that sense of humor, Tyler, you made a joke earlier about, saying that Emma took one for the team.
Yeah, I did say that.
No, there's no way.
I was going to talk about that. Let's see if we can get maybe real here for a little bit if you guys are up for it.
Yeah, for sure.
I just got married, like I said. Sometimes, I kind of battle with like internal thoughts of, am I going to hold my partner back through my vision disability and like slow them down,
Yeah.
And I think that's like a common thought from a lot of visually impaired people or just disabled people in general. And I don't think that's the case, but I can't deny that my brain goes that way sometimes. And it can be, it's definitely a bummer of a thought, to put it simply. Do you have any struggles with that, or where are you at in that journey of kind of self-acceptance? And
before I met Emma, I remember thinking, like I just went through a period of a few years where my vision started to get really worse and dating was like impossible. Like right as Tinder was becoming a thing and then even OkCupid and whatever all those crappy apps are. Right as
They're
those
not
were,
all crappy.
Okay. Defend the data gap.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, as right as those were like becoming a thing, it was like I can no longer get around. I can't really see the app well enough to use any of this stuff. Like, how am I ever gonna find anybody? Like, this is impossible. I mean, it was like the closest. I'm not someone who's prone to depression, but that was like the closest I've ever been. Um, and so what I did was I was just like, I need to be as attractive as I can be to to the opposite sex so that I can feel like I'm overcoming this thing. So, I mean, it's super shallow, but like at that point when you're dating, like that's what the game is. It's a shallow game, and then it gets deeper as your relationship develops. So I've never had, I don't know, I guess you can call it arrogant, but I think I'm just fairly confident when it comes to like being in a relationship with somebody. I never feel like my personality is like if I can get someone to like talk to me and become friends with me, whatever, then it'll all be okay. But it's just meeting people in the first place. I had a real reckoning there. So so I started working out a ton and eating really well, and um you know, playing guitar doesn't hurt.
That's the
And
classic one, right?
yeah, yeah, you got to play the guitar.
Well, I feel like I have to step in here because I hate these, like, I mean, it hurts me so much to hear those like self-deprecating thoughts that I know everybody has about everything else, and you can't help it. But, at the end of the day, a relationship isn't about like a specific ability or disability. It's about so much more than that. And, for me, it's about this person like loves me unconditionally. I love them. We have no jealousy. We push each other to be better versions of ourselves. And I mean, ultimately, what more could you ask for in a relationship? I feel empowered to do whatever I want to do. If I want to go, hiking, Tyler's not going to stop me. And he also doesn't make me feel bad if I want to do something that he physically can't do or just doesn't care to do. And same with me. But that to me is just, any healthy relationship. And those are the most important things.
Yeah.
I've always said too that I think, when we started dating, I just told myself like, I'm letting go of what I thought my life would look like for the opportunity to have something that is possibly better. And that's been 100% true. So.
Well, that's sweet, honey.
No, yeah. I mean,
that was sweet, and I loved hearing both perspectives, and yeah, it is tough to be hard on yourself, and I do think there's pros and cons to being hard on yourself. It's just you got to be healthy about it, I think. And what I think is healthy about what you said, Tyler, is you kind of you didn't let it just stop you in your tracks. You put your health as a priority. You got in shape. You ate, took care of your body. You learned skill sets and continued just living. And like you said, you figured as long as you're providing value and meeting people and being yourself, then the rest would follow. And it seems like it did. And Emma, it seems like you have learned a lot through this whole process about the visually impaired community, and it doesn't even. I'm imagining after a while, it's just like it's not even a thing anymore. It's just
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, I don't wake up every day and think like, oh, my husband's blind. What am I doing? It's like, no, this is our life. And in a lot of ways, I've said this before, in a lot of ways, I think it makes our life so much more unique and so much more beautiful because of the things that we've gone through together and the things that we appreciate, and we appreciate smaller, simpler like wins and things just because we're faced with more adversity than a lot of people.
All that said, let's go CRISPR. Let's go genetic engineering.
Hopefully, what is it?
I don't know, but I know the Usher's gene is like massive, so I need like a miracle here.
Yeah,
it's gonna take like a lot.
They've
to
been
replace
talking a
it.
lot about these like implants that bypass the eye and send visual signals straight to your brain. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of innovation happening. I've actually had conversations on the podcast with people who work at these genetic companies who are
cool
striving to, reverse these eye conditions. And I love learning about it, but I'm with you, Tyler. It's like, I think, I'm into the science, and I'm definitely an advocate for finding a cure, but I am also an advocate for just being more than our eyes, taking care of ourselves and just not slowing down.
Yep.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys entertaining me there with that, therapy chat.
Love to get deep.
For sure.
So I wanted to move on to, you mentioned that you just started a podcast yourself.
Oh yeah.
What is that podcast called? And would you mind plugging it?
Sure. It's called The Big Idea. It's something that Emma and I just tried. We just recorded like video just on the fly of us doing it way back like last year, end of March, beginning of April.
We did it during a pandemic, like in the most intense part of lockdown, to keep people, occupied, just as a fun thing to do, diversion.
And we did it like 2 or 3 times, but it probably wasn't as interesting as it needed to be in that format. It needed a lot more editing. And so basically the way it works is it's a comedy trivia podcast. It's trivia podcast, but it ends up being funny because Emma says funny stuff and I look at it funny, and then it's edited to be really tight. So there's sound effects and all sorts of things going on.
Nice.
It's mostly trivia, but there's 4 rounds of 4. And all of the answers from round 1 have something to do with each other, and all the answers from round 2, and so on and so forth. So you get an idea from each of the rounds, and then those 4 ideas have something in common, and that's the big idea for the day.
No, I love that idea. I'll have to take a listen. You have episodes up now?
Yeah, we had our second one come out this past Friday. I think we're really new, but I think we're gonna probably have them come out like Friday nights at like midnight, something like that.
Yeah, I like that. We've been talking for over an hour. I've loved every second. But I know you guys have lives. You don't want to talk to me for your whole day. But I end all of my episodes with, I let my guest give a shout out to like a nonprofit or charitable organization. And I would love to know if you had one in mind that you wanted everyone to know about.
Do you have something, Em?
I mean, the Foundation Fighting Blindness is the biggest fundraiser for, for trying to find a cure for blindness causing diseases. So at this point, that's still where I would tell people to contribute.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me too. Some people have told us that we should put more of our efforts into, what is it? Iowa, University of Iowa University. I'm not sure which one. They're doing a lot of research too, but I think a good default is the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
I agree. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more involved with Foundation Fighting Blindness, and it seems like they're like the tried and true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to hear more about the Iowa. I'll have to dig into that. And then also the music. You basically already did a shout out earlier to that music company. So
yeah, I see music.
Well, I think that caps things off really nicely, and I'm super appreciative of your time, and you guys made me laugh, and
we make you cry.
We got deep. We got real. It's I would say a success. If someone cries, that's a win.
That's right. Well, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I loved it, and thanks again for everything. And I look forward to following your music and being in touch more often.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
It's nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you, Lance.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And that does it for episode 23. I quite enjoyed talking to two people at the same time. And definitely my guests have a lot to do with that. They brought up a lot of interesting points. I love their story, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Go give their music a listen. They're both super talented. And like I said, if you want to find any of the organizations Emma and Tyler mentioned, just click on the show description. There you will find several helpful links. And before I end this episode, I just want to remind everyone that if you want to reach out to me, say you have an idea for a potential guest or just an idea for the show, a topic, something I'm doing wrong, or, you just want to compliment me, I like compliments. Just, you can email me at the seethroughpodcast@gmail.com. Or again, you can find me on social media. The handle is at seethroughpod. And that works across the board. Just DM me. I promise you I will respond. And as always, I'll have another episode next week. So tune back in then. And until then, stay transparent.